Awesome. Let's give these young people another round of applause, please. Did an awesome job up here. Please, please. But before we begin, just want to recognize International Women's History Month, and I want to give two people some roses while they're still alive with us, so they can actually smell them. One is for the first African-American woman to sit on the municipal council, our council president, Mildred Crump. I know she endures much then, and she endures much now. Mildred, council president, we love you. The second is for a woman that I love dearly, and that is my mother. There has been a lot of talk this season about women and our relationships to them and with them. My mother is the first woman I knew. And a lot of people give credit to my father for raising us, and I think he did an awesome job, but I want to tell you the facts is that my mother raised our family. All of us. And we owe her a debt of gratitude. In fact, this entire city owes her a debt of gratitude. She had to live her life publicly because of her husband and now her son. So, Miss Baraka, Mommy, we love you. I feel good today. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching to freedom land. Madam Council President, members of the Municipal Council, Reverend clergy, elected official, and esteemed guests, my fellow Newarkers. Tonight is my fourth time delivering the State of the City address. And it is not lost on me that this is probably the most anticipated one because we are, in fact, in an election season. And so while I like to use this speech to go over what we anticipate doing in the coming years, I'd like to first briefly lay out what we have already done. Not what we promised to do, but what we have actually accomplished in a very difficult period in a short 4 years. We cut unemployment while putting the city on firm financial footing. We've changed the narrative about our city and all over the country. The headlines about Newark are changing. And anyone that tries to tell you other than that is trying to peddle you lies. I'm here to tell you that the old negative narrative is not our story. It is not Newark's story. Ours is an indefatigable journey forward, not a perfect one, just a persistent one. It is a story of our collective push forward, our successes, even when others counted us out. How our economy is beginning to thrive, how people finally believe again, how our old problems have given way to the problems that come with success. We could not talk about who is moving to our city years ago because no one was coming. We couldn't argue about whether we should have tall buildings or not because there were no buildings being built. We could not argue about who our superintendent should be because we did not have control over our schools then. We could not argue about how we deliver health care because we were content with inefficiency. We could not argue about gentrification or whether we like Amazon or not because there was not any hope for real growth and development, and we would never have made Amazon's top 20 pick 5 or 10 years ago. And so we are ecstatic to hear that our new governor stands with our quest for Amazon because he understands that this is not just about one company, but about 50,000 direct jobs and some estimated 60 to 100,000 additional jobs, with billions more in investment and more in retail, commercial, and residential space. Not just for Newark, but for the entire state and the region. He understands that our city has been underdeveloped for decades, and this is a real chance to begin steps to fix decades of neglect and invest in infrastructure, training, jobs, and economic development. To not consider this or take this seriously or grapple with this on its face is irresponsible. We must go forward here, and we must go forward with Newark leading the way. So we thank Governor Murphy for his support of our great city. We can no longer dwell in the past, romanticize years long gone, or make our millennials believe that their best years will never come because they are all behind them. We have to get them to think about the real issues and real problems that they have to solve. We have to recruit them, not lull them to sleep, or inundate them with confusion and anger. We have to give them life and hope that forward is the best way, that their lives in this city continue to get better with them in it. And we have to provide them space to work, to live, to play, and to transform this city, this state, and this country. That is why we say forward ever, backward never. 4 years ago, if you watched television and listened to the radio, read the newspaper or social media, you'd have been given a bleak and negative narrative that was forced upon us and shaped the way people around the country viewed our great city. It was so pervasive that some of us believed it too, and it ripened into cynicism and recklessness. Not all of it was true, of course, but it began to take hold. The story was every street filled with crime and violence, a police force that was intimidated and brutalizing residents, daily worse than many cities around the country, unemployment off the charts, and a city where the majority of its residents lived in poverty, economic stagnation, and no growth at all. Schools so bad that they had to be under state control in a downtown where there was nothing to do at all. This is what they sold to us. Most of it was never true, but it fit the narrative. However, just 4 years later, there's been so much progress going on that the media can no longer ignore it. Ironically, it came from outside of our city first. The Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, ABC and CBS National News, then NJTV and News 12. Why? Because I'm cutting ribbons almost every other week or breaking ground for new retail, restaurants, affordable housing, hotels, warehouses, market rate units, university centers, and much, much more. This is happening all over our city. Cranes everywhere, $4 billion worth of development, buildings going up on every major corridor, and plans to redevelop entire blocks of abandoned and empty lots. Unemployment is down from almost 12% from when I first started to single digits of 8%. And at one point, it was as low as 7%. This is still not acceptable, which is why we are continuing to push forward. And crime is too high, but we have managed to get it lower than ever reported in the last 50 years with fewer resources. Murder's down 36% since I took office. Robberies down 55%. auto theft down 32%, and most importantly, there have been 3,288 fewer victims of crime since 2013. 40 fewer murder victims from 2016 to 2017. We put more police on the street and put them in areas where crime is the highest. We took 540 guns off the street last year alone, and almost 2,000 since I first took office. And we are deeply focused on rebuilding the trust between our police department and the community. We increased the number of officers walking the beat. We created Community CompStat and graduated hundreds of civilians from our public safety academy. We created clergy patrols and put 2 community service officers in every precinct. We created, with the help of Rutgers University, the Safer Newark Council that helped us target real crime and not put the entire city under siege. They helped us develop new strategies to attack crime that involved community partners and alternative strategies. We developed community street teams that helped us resolve conflicts in high crime areas. They redirect many to education, life skills, employment, and make sure our children get to and from school safely. We developed discussions with cops and kids and cops and community members around trauma, trust, and resolution. We created a street academy that has engaged dozens of our young people aged 16 to 24 without a high school diploma or a job. We moved them to self-love, education, and employment. And if any of those folks are in here tonight, any of the students or members from the Newark Community Street Team or the Street Academy or the Safer Newark Council, please stand so we can acknowledge you. Four years ago, we were demonstrating in the streets. Our children were walking out of schools frequently and even barricaded themselves inside the Board of Education central office. We traveled to Trenton to demand the return of our schools. I promised that before this first term was up, that our schools would return to the people of this community. And on February the 1st, we celebrated the day when the elected school board finally assumed control of our schools again. And we began the process of looking for our own superintendent, not one appointed by bureaucrats or Trenton politicians. Listen, this path was created because we transformed the environment from destruction and division to problem solving and collaboration. It didn't mean we always agreed, but we understood that our greatest asset was our children and that our struggles were ultimately centered around their progress. This path was created because we made room for our young people to express themselves, to organize themselves, and to ultimately lead us. Now, more of our students are graduating from high school. It's almost 78%. More are going to college. More of our students are in beating the odds schools than in many cities across the nation. And many more of our students are defying expectations and are competing, even surpassing state benchmarks. One young man that personifies this is Jordan Thomas. Jordan served as a student representative to the Newark School Board and was one of the students who fought to return our schools to local control. Education is deeply personal to Jordan. It's a value his parents, Neil and Mary Thomas, have always emphasized, and one that his dad, a science teacher at American History High School, would talk about to start each school year. Jordan is now a 21-year-old senior at Princeton University. He's a Rhodes Scholar, the first Newark Public Schools graduate to study at the University of Oxford in England in this generation. He's one of 32 American college students elected from a pool of 866 candidates. After Oxford and law school, Jordan plans to return to Newark and work for a nonprofit organization or public interest law firm. But that's not all. Jordan intends to run for public office. On a local, state, and then ultimately the federal level. Jordan Thomas, who grew up on Barber Street in the Ironbound, has not forgotten his roots. And one day, Jordan Thomas may be on this stage delivering the State of the City address. Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Thomas, we are proud of you. We have so much more to do and a greater work to accomplish as we are still too far behind. This is why we have put together a children's cabinet and a youth policy board to begin to oversee and deliberately provide spaces where our community partners can help guide our district and our schools forward. We cannot stop now. We cannot change course. This work is too serious. We cannot veer off the road because of individual anger and ambition. We do not have the luxury of repeating our past mistakes. We are not returning the schools back to the state. We are not returning them back. Not now, not ever. We must go forward. The real story is that when I came into City Hall, we had a structural deficit and years of unpaid bills. We were not only able to rescue the city from a downward spiral, but also stayed true to our social justice aspirations as well. I came into office with an unbalanced budget and 167 police officers laid off, another 300 retirements and no replacements. We stopped that negative trend and since then have hired close to 500 new officers with another class of over 100 anticipated this summer. In addition, we've opened 3 additional precincts, the first in the Central Ward, and now we're going to open up the 6th and the 7th. The 6th will be in Ivy Hill in the Velsburg section of our city, and the 7th will be in the city's North Ward in School Stadium. Our stories are about Detective Joe Suarez, a 16-year veteran assigned to our ERT. He was shot in his chest with a bullet striking his ballistic shield while executing a warrant and an arrest. He did not return fire after being shot and made an arrest. Moreover, there was also a woman and a young child present at the scene. And you know, if this incident had gone wrong, we would still be discussing this today, but in a negative manner. This detective showed extreme restraint and discipline, made the arrest, saved innocent lives, and lifted the honor and reputation of our officers for years to come. There was also a firefighter named Paul Lieber, a 10-year veteran in Engine 7, who became trapped in a 2-alarm fire. He almost lost his life that day. If it weren't for his fellow firemen that went back into the building and rescued him, he may not have been here with us this evening. Detective Suarez and firefighter Lieber, please stand. These men risked their lives for our city and its residents. Today, we honor them for their service, and we honor them as residents of our city. Code enforcement forces were laid off in 2010 since I took office, but we've hired 27 more. Crossing guards were laid off, and not only did we stop the layoffs, we hired an additional 40 and put them on a road to increase their salaries to $15 an hour. We purchased new equipment for public works, police, and fire. And we did all of this while rising out of a financial crisis. It's easy for people who stood on the sidelines to make videos now about how they would pass out money after we fixed the holes in the floor, repaired the roof, and stopped the hemorrhaging. But recently, Moody's report said, the revision of the outlook to positive from negative reflects our expectations that the recent positive financial operations will continue in the city. We were fiscally responsible. We raised revenue, increased development, and invested back into our employees and city services. This is not something we are promising to do because times have gotten better. This is something we did in very difficult and critical times. In fact, when we first took office, the headline was Newark Police under federal consent decree. And just a year or two later, President Obama invited me to the White House to be on a panel about criminal justice reform. And later, he visited Newark to announce his plans around these reforms on a national level. Listen, the real story is that Newark police are making less unnecessary arrests while reducing crime, and getting fewer complaints while reducing homicides and robberies. And while the rest of the country is talking about the Ferguson effect, Newark passed the Civilian Complaint Review Board. We've increased in community engagement, opened a women's support center with community involvement. We implemented alternative policing strategies and have managed to achieve record highs in crime reduction at the same time. We eliminated contracts that were given illegally and untruthfully on emergency basis for years at a cost to taxpayers of millions and millions of dollars, and fought to give work to local and minority contractors so they could benefit from their own city. We were taken to court by a company that was given emergency contracts for 10 years of nearly $10 million a year. We won the court battle, and now we can and will give a piece of those contracts to local women and minority-owned businesses. This administration saved the city millions in healthcare costs and forced a discussion about rising healthcare expenses and a broken system designed to rip off our residents, bloat their tax bill, force employees to pay a greater percentage in healthcare, and move the city backward. The city's street cleaning contract was held by a vendor that wielded undue influence on our city far too long, and streets that were never really cleaned anyway. We took initiative. We took risk. We brought it in-house, leased our own trucks, put our destiny in our own hands. And whether we're getting it right or not, we are doing it ourselves. And what you will never ever read in the newspapers or see on TV is that the person who influenced the cleaning contract and profited from it is the same person who influenced the health insurance contract, and is the same person who influenced the street sweeping contract. And I am trying to redistribute some wealth in this city and not put it all in the hands of a few greedy power brokers. Tell that story. Moreover, while this president has been on a mission to build walls and alienate our residents and create division, we created municipal IDs and made Newark a fair and welcome city. We stood against hatred in all of its forms. We have uplifted all of our communities and involved them in every step forward, no matter the language they speak, the food they eat, how they decide to pray, or if they are gay or straight. We gave our LGBTQ community access to a wide array of health and wellness services and a police liaison to address their unique needs. I'd also like to take a moment to pay homage to a member of our city's arts community, an advocate for the LGBTQ community that we lost last year, Mr. Rodney Gilbert. Rodney played an important role in the development of our citywide mural program and also served on our LGBTQ commission, and all of us will miss him dearly. We are making Newark work for all. We passed the cumulative impact ordinance while the president pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord. We passed an inclusionary zoning ordinance that creates 20% affordable units in every residential building that receives a variance or subsidy from the city. And soon every developer will have to comply with this law. And while the federal government cuts money for low-income housing in Newark, we are encouraging affordable home ownership. We've provided land and buildings at very low cost, as well as financial grants to residents to help people develop homes for themselves. We've collaborated with groups like the Urban League to build affordable homes for residents that were renters to turn them into homeowners. And we help homeowners facing foreclosure. We support efforts to call for a statewide moratorium on foreclosures and have collaborated with New Jersey Community Capital to acquire both unoccupied and occupied properties under Newark Mortgage Stabilization Program to modify people's loans, write down their mortgages to the current value of their property, and forgive back payments. In addition, a number of unoccupied homes are in the process of rehabilitation and we put back on the market as affordable homes. We've taken slumlords to court, forced them to upgrade their buildings for residents, and moved people out of substandard and dilapidated housing at the owner's expense. We managed to get the Fox Landlord Group to sell all of their properties, more than 200 units across the city, and work with a new owner to build upgrades in security, doors, HVAC, kitchens, bathrooms, walls, and keep it all affordable. In fact, in 2014, we have constructed some 3,415 housing units outside of the downtown area, and 58% of them are affordable. We organized and collaborated with mid-sized to small local Black and brown developers to target development in the most difficult areas of the city. And we managed, with the help of the council, to push to strengthen the rent control ordinance that I sponsored while I was a council member. Moreover, Councilmember Ramos and I pushed for earned sick leave. We stood at the airport and across the city to fight for an increase in the minimum wage. And while those who did nothing to help the homeless now attacked our new homeless shelter, the real story is that the city managed to find a way to set up its first city-run homeless shelter, a refuge from the streets and the bitter cold that has on average seen 125 persons per night and provided over 14,000 bed nights since we opened. We have seen close to 3/4 of the homeless population. This has never been done. We created systems around Newark 2020, while corporate partners have agreed to and are hiring more Newark residents, invested in Newark businesses, and encouraging more employees to live here. For example, 83 Newark residents have completed the Higher Newark Employment Ready Boot Camp at RWJ Barnabas Beth Israel Hospital since its inception in 2016. The program has a 92% employment rate, and 82% of its participants are still currently employed. Alfred Elliott, a 41-year-old male, was born and raised in Newark and currently lives in the West Ward, a husband and a father of 3. He spent years going from one temporary job to the next, unable to secure full-time employment. But today, thanks to the Higher Newark program, Alfred has secured 2 positions. He graduated from the 5-week intensive job readiness course in the fall of 2017, is now a distribution clerk at Newark Beth Israel and an inventory specialist at RWJ Barnabas Health. Please stand to be acknowledged. Kaya Taylor, 33 years old, from the North Ward, was in great emotional pain when she found the program. Kaya had been forced to close her hair salon after just 1 year in business. She also lost the matriarch of her family, her great-grandmother. She felt discouraged and defeated, but then she found the Higher Newark program and began to transform her life. With the help and support of coaches in the program, she improved her public speaking skills. She learned how to build an effective resume, how to cultivate a network of contacts, and most of all, how to be patient with herself and others. Today, Kaya is gainfully employed as a concierge at the Clara Mass Medical Center, an RWJ Barnabas Health facility. Please stand to be acknowledged. There is amazing collaborative work going on at Rutgers Newark under the leadership of Nancy Cantor. The Newark City of Learning Collaborative, the Honors Living and Learning Community, and the Run to the Top program are just 3 of them. Under Nancy's direction, Rutgers Newark has increased its enrollment of Newark students by 60% in the last few years. They have focused in on families that have a household income of $60,000 or less and are giving them full tuition. Let me tell you 2 stories. Tariq Rowland grew up in the South Ward of the city of Newark. In 2003, he was ranked one of the top 100 players in New Jersey, receiving several athletic awards throughout his basketball career. Tariq admitted as a transfer student into the Honors Living Learning Community in 2017 earned an associate's degree in arts and science at Essex County College First. Tariq is pursuing a social work degree at Rutgers University, Newark. His experience from growing up in Newark gave him a desire to care, assist, and encourage others to be resilient and cultivate opportunities for themselves, and influenced his goal to become a social worker and work with youth from inner cities to empower, motivate, and have a positive impact on their lives. As a working student and a proud father, Tariq not only studies in Newark, but is also an employee in Newark's sanitation department. Having overcome the pipeline from school to prison, he demonstrates a great work ethic and responsibility as a student and a father, and is involved with the Truth and Racial Healing and Transformation Center, as well as the intergroup dialogue, reflecting his passion for building bridges between communities and mentoring young students. What a guy. Yemi Gomez Castillo, class of 2020, Rutgers School of Public Affairs and Administration, and a recipient of the Run to the Top, was born in Honduras, but immigrated here in 2003 in hopes of greater opportunity. Her family settled in Newark and have lived in the same 2-block radius of the South Ironbound since their arrival. Her heart resides in Newark and its people. It is because of the people here that she is where and who she is today. She grew up seeing people like her parents, her fellow artists, make the best of very little they had, and that was the most valuable lesson she could ever learn. She learned to be resourceful, to take every opportunity and run with it. She attended Arts High School and immediately fell in love with it. She arrived at Newark Airport at the age of 6. She didn't know if she could even go to college. She felt invisible for a very long time. She was resentful at the way life was turning out for her, and she missed her family, and it was 14 long years. But she took all of her pain and began writing about it through song, poetry, journal entries, and anything else she could get her hands on. She began singing at open mics in Newark, at La Rouge, and open arts festivals, and Feed the Soul. Yemi's story is a story that needs to be told, not just in Newark, but across the country. Tariq and Yemi, please stand. We're doing real work in this city. Intense, deliberate, and collaborative work. We are tackling real problems that have burdened our city for decades. And I'm here to tell you tonight that our city's path forward relies on our ingenuity, our courage, and our ability to cooperate with each other, to debate sincerely and openly without demonizing or looking for easy answers. Forward is done through collaboration, an unyielding commitment to tell all of us, not self. Forward is not about self-interest and small ambitions. Forward accounts for all of us. Forward is not about acquiring position for ourselves, but about seizing power for us all. Forward encompasses our dreamers looking for the promise of America, our undocumented feeling safe to invest in our economy and take a part in our progress. Forward includes formerly incarcerated trying to make amends through work and civic engagement. Forward is about all of our residents benefiting from the city's renaissance. Forward is our students going to college and finding careers in the city of their birth. Forward is about safe community for our families and seniors that enjoy their golden years. Forward is about our hope and progress, about embracing our future, about challenges and new solutions. Forward does not mean we don't struggle with each other. It only means that we do it with all of us in mind and not a few of us. Forward is not just about knocking down walls. It's about building systems that will sustain us, elevate us, transform us, and stand in the way of us ever going backward again. To move forward, we need to be brilliant, imaginative, thoughtful, collaborative, and positive thinking. We need these kind of people in this space. We need people that are strong enough to point out our shortcomings, but more importantly, we need people that are courageous enough to build solutions. Sometimes, with those people we don't normally agree with. I have deep respect for those who have done this before me. And I'm ripe with the understanding of the complexities and hardships they had to endure to move us to where we found ourselves in 2014. I praise them for the work they did, both their accomplishments and their missteps. I know the obstacles that was placed before them and the difficulty of winning in a place that was designed that we lose. I understand the importance of Moses to Joshua and the passing of the torch from generation to generation. I know that there would be no Joshua without Moses. But how could Moses' work be done if Joshua didn't fulfill it? We would not be on the field if they didn't get us in the game. I am forever grateful for the work of Ken Gibson in a tumultuous time. He transitioned us to power and held our city up at a time when our resources were purposefully deteriorating. I'm grateful for the sharp change that came with Mayor James, who ushered our city into strength, that built the NJ Pack and the Prudential Arena, and began to rebuild affordable housing in a way that upheld our dignity in an era that began scapegoating cities for America's problems. I am sincerely grateful for Senator and then Mayor Booker for forcing the world to look at us differently and for setting the stage for where we are presently. And I love and respect my brother, Councilman and Mayor Louis Quintana, for holding the fort down. These people got us in the game. They marched the ball down the field against overwhelming opposition and unbelievable odds. In some instances, they got us to the red zone. If you're a football fan, then you know that the red zone is a crucial area on the field. It is right before you score. However, it is not guaranteed. In fact, there are some teams that have a good percentage of getting to the red zone, but a poor one in getting in the end zone. But this administration has been getting the ball down the field to the red zone and across the line into the end zone. We understand that the game is not based on how many times you get to the red zone, but on how many times you get in the end zone. And we are scoring touchdowns. In my first State of the City address, held in the council chambers, there were massive challenges in front of us. We had an opportunity to talk about what we wanted to do. But today, by the grace of God, I get to tell you what we have done. I talked about being emotionally overwhelmed on Inauguration Day, thinking of my dad with Nina Simone playing in my ear. We talked about a city that would attract tech companies and preparing our workforce for those jobs. Now, we're on the short list to host one of the world's largest tech companies, Amazon. Touchdown. We talked about the promise of higher education and opening universities for Newark students, and NCLC was born. And now dormitories are being built with our students in mind. Touchdown. At that time, we were beginning to get involved in President Obama's My Brother's Keeper initiative, targeting young men of color to disrupt the prison pipeline and create opportunities and pathways for millions of young men of color that were often left out. A few weeks ago, we partnered with Obama's National My Brother's Keeper Foundation and brought over 1,000 young men of color to the Prudential Center for workshops, resume writing, career preparation. They received haircuts, suit jackets, ties, and some even left with a job. In fact, there was a homeless young man that I met who had just came home from jail and left that day with more contacts, greater opportunity, and employment. Touchdown. We talked about turning our downtown into a neighborhood and getting students off University Avenue. And now we see them at Barcade, Mikado Tomato Pie, Blaze Pizza, the bookstore on Halsey, the Nike shop on Broad Street. Touchdown. We talked about starting $1 billion worth of development. Now we are at $4 billion. Touchdown. We talked about in 2015, just 3 years ago, moving self-insured plan for our city workers to save taxpayers millions of dollars and provide better service. Today, despite all the drama, we are on our way there. Touchdown. We talked about our city's recreation centers and improving them. Today, we have renovated almost every rec center and park under the city's care, even built a boxing gym, and have plans to break ground on Ironbound Field and the ice skating rink this year. Touchdown. We argued in 2015 that Newark 3.0 meant work, play, and live in Newark. Today, we are just doing that with Newark 2020. Touchdown. We talked about the great work John Schreiber was doing to get One Theater Square off the ground. And the same sentence anticipated the opening of Whole Foods in our city. Now, One Theater Square will be finished this year. Whole Foods is open, and Shaquille O'Neal project on Rector Street is just months away from being done. Touchdown, 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 touchdown. We derided our then governor about his policies and stubbornness around our schools. Today, not only do we have our schools back, but also we are together at the table with every major partner in this city to redevelop, reimagine, and reinvent our schools into community schools. And according to Governor Murphy's budget address, we will be getting more dollars for our schools. Touchdown. We spoke of a new French company coming in Newark called BioTrial, and the world's largest indoor vertical farm opening, AeroFarms. Today, they are both making headlines all over the country. Touchdown. We had a dream of a triangle park with retail and commercial development all around it, with a bridge that connected the center of the city to Penn Station and the Ironbound to neighborhood. Today, take a walk down Mulberry Street and see the dream of Triangle Park under construction as Mulberry Commons comes to life right across from the new Grammy Museum at the Prudential Center, and on the other side from the Ironside office building and retail that will host the new M&M Mars headquarters. Touchdown. We talked about raising money to expand a park at the riverfront. Now we have raised over $60 million and broken ground on phase 4 of what will be a 3-mile-long riverfront park. Heck, you can even drive up South Orange Avenue and see cranes, Central Avenue and see cranes, Clinton Avenue and see cranes, 17th Avenue and see cranes, and more and more and more, and see our city coming to life. We have touchdown after touchdown after touchdown after touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. Now you tell me why in our right mind would we want to turn back now? And even with all of that, we're repaving streets, more than 200 of them last year, 30 miles or more this year, and in the past, the city was only able to do 4 miles a year. We've arrested almost 60 illegal dumpers. In addition, we have brought in record revenue and are getting better each day. So, what do we have left to do now? We build community schools in every ward. We expand on ideas about what works, not school logos or your brand. We guarantee more of our kids' graduation from school and put more of them in college through Newark City of Learning Collaborative. We push NJIT in Montclair and Essex County College in Berkeley to meet the same goals Rutgers has. We perfect Newark 2020 and ensure Newarkers are working in well-paying jobs. We have a conscious strategy of making Newark a center of the new high-tech economy, the Silicon Valley of the East Coast. And that strategy is already proving successful. We prepare for Amazon, whether we agree with them or not. And if they don't come, we prepare anyway for a new tech economy. We put NAN Tech Center in every ward, like the one on Hawthorne Avenue. We build a smart city by leveraging our 27 miles of fiber. We use it to reduce crime, create jobs, solve problems, and make our city more accessible. Now, I'm pleased to announce today yet another milestone in Newark's growing importance as a technology hub. We learned over the weekend that Newark has been chosen to host Voice, a 3-day summit at the forefront of natural language processing sponsored by Amazon's Alexa. This is big. Voice technology will soon be the way the entire world communicates with computers, machines, cars, home appliances, and more. And it will be the way these devices communicate with us. There'll be more than 1,500 developers, designers, leading brands and agencies who are reimagining how we interact, are coming together to discuss and plan for how natural language processing and artificial intelligence will transform our world. And they are coming together in Newark, New Jersey. We continue to build out our camera infrastructure all over our city to allow residents to monitor their neighborhoods along with the police. And we spread Ring technology throughout the city to allow homeowners and even renters to view people that are coming on their doorsteps. We expand social workers in police stations, spread Newark Community Street Team to every ward, expand the Newark Street Academy, and build a system of trauma-informed care in every institution in the city because violence is a public health issue. We continue to retrain our officers to drive crime down without violating our constitutional rights. We can build the city that grows economically and provides for its residents at the same time. We can welcome market-rate housing while preserving affordability, build more affordable and low-income housing, and work to turn renters into homeowners. We can and will build worker cooperatives and create a fund to buy mid-sized businesses and turn them over to workers. We collaborate with the state and our governor around building a public bank and work to support that in our city. We create more opportunities for reentry. We've already brought at least 100 to the workforce and continue to strengthen our economy to ensure that all workers are making at least $15 an hour and that everyone has earned sick leave in our city. We advance our homeless shelter. We perfected and built more transitional housing using container homes and put our homeless to work in our Ready to Work program that will get them to help clean our city and earn a stipend at the same time. We work with New York's Mayor Bill de Blasio to finish our Right to Counsel initiative that will guarantee representation to prevent evictions of the disabled, the elderly, and all those that are 200% below the poverty line. We invest in our neighborhoods, especially in areas that have lived with blight for over 50 years. We will use Senator Cory Booker's Opportunity Zone legislation, and we've been given 13 zones already by the state. We channel unprecedented amounts of resources into communities that were purposefully neglected, redlined, and willfully underdeveloped for years. We will build more housing in every ward with an emphasis on marginalized communities like LGBTQ, single mothers, art community, and the differently abled. We work with the state to invest in our health care, to rebuild Rutgers Medical School and hospital and provide clinics for residents in every ward. We focus on early childhood education and expand pre-K-3 classes to more families. We build our infrastructure, starting with Penn Station, and continue to redo and build parks. We can work on Port Authority to get them to zero emissions in the port area and preserve the health of our families. We can get them to pay the city what they owe us, and at the same time, work with them to use the land on and off the port for the most efficient use economically that benefits them and us. And we support and we thank Councilwoman Gail Cheneyfield Jenkins for sponsoring an ordinance that will codify state law and affirmative action practices in the city that will give everyone, women and men, an opportunity to seek additional redress for their grievances. We support a workplace free from intimidation, exploitation, unwanted advances, and bullying. We know Newark can be a better place and that it will take all of us to get there, even our opponents. We can accomplish many things in better times, with better partners, today because we accomplished them in difficult times. I believe in this city, and more importantly, I believe in the people in it. We can now choose the direction we want to go in. We don't have to be economy for some of us. We can be an economy for all of us. We don't have to approach our future fearful, scapegoating each other for long systemic problems. We can hold hands and pull each other over the finish line. We can continue to have politics that are divisive and dangerous, that seek to get ahead on each other's backs, or we can have community service that forces us ahead because we have each other's backs. We can choose to be inclusive and open-minded and offer opportunity to disagree and debate without demoralizing those that disagree with us. We can build bridges, not walls. We do not have to be known for nasty and vindictive politics to be the state's reality TV show. We can choose to stand up together or fall down individually. Now, I humbly submit to you today that we have no other choice. Our city can only go forward with all of us. We do not have to watch it take the fate of other cities grappling with these same issues. We can challenge those assumptions and not have to fall victim to cynicism. We can win. But we need people that are willing to win and not be held back by inflexible dogma and make room for ideas whose time has come. We have to be willing to depart from who we are to make room for our blessing. We have to challenge our own thinking, be brilliant enough to create new ideas, but courageous enough to actually try them out and implement them. We have to know that in our attempts, we will fall down. We will make mistakes. We will get it wrong. But we have a right to make mistakes. We have a right to get it wrong. We have a right to fall down, and we have a right to get back up. We have to create an environment where that is okay, where we don't bully and ridicule each other for making attempts, for taking risks, for moving out of the realm of theory and becoming practitioners. Listen, we are in the process of transforming this city. And either you are going to be on the sidelines talking about those who dare to struggle and dare to win, or you're going to get in the arena and put mud on your face and calluses on your hands. You choose. You choose. Me? I was born for a time like this. These days, these tumultuous times, I was born for a moment like this. I came into the world 2 years after the Newark Rebellion, and a year before the election of Ken Gibson signaled an end to apartheid in our city. I was fed a daily meal of freedom, justice, and equality, on unyielding love for our city and the families in it. I was raised in periods of discord, danger, and constant attacks on my family. I know what it feels like to be in trouble. I understand who and what Newark is. Why? Because I know its people. I raised its children. My mother comes from a working class family of garment workers and truck drivers. My father's family were postal workers and social workers. They both came to the city like thousands of others looking for opportunity, a fresh start, and running from terror in the South. But they are no different from those who came here from the Caribbean, Spanish-speaking, French-speaking, English-speaking, looking for a dream they heard about. imagining a place where their hard work would pay off and their families would be free to express their humanity. And they are no different than immigrants that left Europe looking for a chance to grow, to experience a democracy that they read about, that was admired all over the world, fleeing destitution, looking for dignity and decent wages. All of us landed here in this city. And it is our efforts, our collective will, that we have been missing all of these years. We have been held apart by language, religious rituals, by individuals that do not understand that our national struggles must be tied to our struggle for humanity, by those that make money for themselves to keep us segregated and confused. We all want the same thing. We want wages we can live off, excellent education for our children, neighborhoods where our families are safe, to be free from sickness and disease and poison in our air, our water, to have our constitutional rights upheld, to have the same chances as everybody else, and to be treated as human beings, whether we are documented or not. We can achieve this. We can make this happen. In Newark, we can create something that has never been done. And I know there are pundits out there whose job it will be after this to explain to you how fictitious this is, or naysayers to deny our possibilities and say, we are serving false hope. But as President Obama said, we have the audacity to hope. We hope the hope of dreamers who have tied their future to this country and pushed forward and every day in a sea of opposition. We hope the hope of former slaves and sharecroppers that took a risk and cobbled everything together they owned and made their way up north looking for the promised land. We hope the hope of single mothers that try every day to make a space for their family, to pay a road for their children that is filled with the best that Newark has to offer. We hope the hope of us all when we see the recent positive headlines of our city, when we drive around and see things looking like they might be changing, that change includes us. That there's a space for their family, even if their English isn't perfect, or they have just recently come home from jail, or they don't have all the skills they think they need, or they are fresh out of college. And every single day, I see our potential, our progress forward. Judge Victoria Pratt told an audience, she told an audience of young women at Central High School that our setback is only a setup for our comeback. Newark, we coming back. And there's nothing anyone can do about it. Nothing anyone can do about it. No matter how much they try to drag us down, we are going to stay on that wall. No matter how much they try to defame us, we're going to stay on that wall. We are not looking east. We are not looking west. Our focus is forward, forward ever, backward never. We are not afraid of what lies ahead, because I got news for you. He hides me in plain sight, in the secret of his tabernacle. He sets me upon a rock, and he prepares a table for me in the presence of my enemies. And by the way, this has never been about me. It's been about all of us. Dr. Martin Luther King said all of us are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one affects us all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be unless you are what you ought to be. This means we in this together, and your success is inextricably bound to my own. So we're going forward together, even if we have to drag you along with us. We won't go back. There's too much work to be done, too much ground to cover. I won't go back now because I know what happened. I know what happened because Nehemiah stayed on that wall. I know what happened after Job went through calamity. I won't go back because I know what happened after Daniel fasted and Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego were put in the fiery furnace. I know what happened after the people wandered for 40 years and reached the River Jordan. I could still see the stones mounted up on dry land. I won't go back because I know what the future holds. I won't go back because I have seen it, and I have no doubt in my mind, no doubt at all, Newark, that if we stay on this course, this pathway forward, that if we hold on to each other, from the streets of Summer Avenue to Mount Prospect and Verona, from North 6th to South 10th, from Irvin Turner to 14th Avenue, if we just hold on to each other from Mount Vernon to 18th Avenue, from Clinton and Chadwick to Ferry and Monroe, if we grab a hold of each other, if we hold on to each other from Pennington Court to Bradley Court, from the Weequahic section to Lower Broadway, if we hold on to each other, not be driven apart by cynics, not torn apart by haters, not driven down by liars, if we hold on to one another, if we hold on to each other as tight as we possibly can, if we continue this and march forward and not look back, our city will always be strong. It will always be strong. And each day it will get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. God bless you, and God bless the great city of Newark.